Good evening.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
All right. Okay, looks like we're starting Gimel today. So it says like this. So he brings here what we said about saying El Melech Ne'eman at the beginning of the Kriyat Shema. He brings the tour that talks about this to complete 248. The truth is, no, it can't be. We already did this one. So it seems like we're in a different one. Let's see here. Yeah, we gotta do Dalet, I think. Okay. Question is, where is it? Seems to have disappeared on us. Let's see in the beginning. Yeah, it looks like there is none. That means it's probably just Shulchan Aruch. So let's see what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so he says in the Shulchan Aruch, Nohagim likrot pasuk b'kol ram. So he says the custom is to read the first verse in a loud voice. Why is that? Because this makes you concentrate more. This is what he says in 4, Daled. So the rest of it doesn't have to be in a loud voice. That's what he's trying to say, right? Just the first pasuk. So the general rule is, that if you want to have concentration on something, it's good to say it out loud, because this makes you concentrate better. That's the reason for that. Okay, so that's pretty clear. Let's go to Hey. Maybe there's some tool on these, even though there's no Beit Yosef. It's possible. Yeah, let's check that. There's probably some tool here. Right, so here, this is the tool. It says, Nohagim Sfarad, Likot Pasuk Rishon B'Kol Ram. So it says in Spain, what they did was they read the first Pasuk loudly, right? As we said, this is the proper thing to do. Minhag Tovu, so it's a good custom, right, to do that, as we said, because this awakens the concentration when you do that. This is the reason why. Okay, good. So then it goes on to say, to awaken the concentration, Pasuk Rishon, Shehu Ikar. So he says, why the first verse? Because that's the main Kriyat Shema, right? The main Kriyat Shema is the first verse. Makom Kamata Kriya, which is the place where you have to concentrate. The rest of it doesn't really require concentration. V'yesh nuhagim shenotnim yadehem al penehem b'kriyat pasuk harishon. So it says another thing, which is that there are some who have the custom to put their hands on their face on the first pasuk. This is also for concentration. This way you don't get distracted by the things you see. So he brings here from the brachot, Gemara brachot, Yud Gimel Amud Bet, Rabbi kad hava manach yadeh aene hava karele. Right, so he says over there in the Gemara, Rabbi Danasi, when he would put his hands over his face like this, he would read the first verse of the Shema. Perush kavanato shelo yistakel. So he says the meaning of this is like this: that you shouldn't look at the davar acher, other things. Shemonin milkaven bilchaven, that they prevent you from concentrating. That's why we put our hands over our face. So he says there's also the general rule. He says whatever a person does, to awaken the concentration is good. So if you have some tricks up your sleeve, how to concentrate better, even though it's not written in the halakha, but whatever you can do, to maximize your kavanah, your concentration, it's good. So Nick goes on, katav, okay, good. So we'll see that in the Shulchan Aruch now. Dalet we already did, so we're going to do hey now. It says, so he says the custom is to put their hand on their face in the first verse, in order that he should look at something else, that prevents him from concentrating. So this is the reason why we do that. Okay, very good, very simple. So we'll go now to Vav. And over there is Bet Yosef. So let's see what it says there. Vav. Yeah. There's also a tour on this, so I'll read the tour first. Yeah. So it says in the tour like this. Tzarich le'arich bedalid. What you have to do is, when you're reading the Shema, when you read the word echad, you have to prolong the dalid there a little bit. Go long in that. Prolong it. So the echad shiur she'achashov belibo shekadosh baruch hu yachid be'olamo lemal u'mata dal ruchot ha'olam. So at that time, when you're doing the dalid, you should be thinking in your concentration, your thought should be like this: that Hashem is one in the world, above and below, and the four directions of the world. This should be your concentration as you prolong your dalid. Okay, so let's see the Bet Yosef on that. There are some things I have to tell you about that, by the way, because some people make mistakes with this. And there are some common mistakes that are made. Okay, so it says the Bet Yosef, where's the source for this? In the Gemara, Brachot, Yud Gimel Amud Bet, Tanya, Sumkos Omer Kol HaMa'arich Be'echad Marichin Yamav V'Shmatav. So it says, whoever extends that word, elongates it, echad, they stretch out they give him longevity, right? So he lives long. So it says this rabbi, which part of the echad do you have to prolong? The dalet. Amar Rav Ashi, right? So it says Rav Ashi, but he says, you know what? You're supposed to prolong the daled, but don't swallow the het. In other words, make sure you pronounce that too, because it's supposed to be like ehad. So that means that make sure you get that ha. Make sure you got that also. Don't swallow it. And then he says, Rabbi. So this rabbi was sitting in front of Rabbi. So what happened was that he started to elongate this a little bit too long. He exaggerated a little bit too much, you know what I mean? So Amalei, so he tells him, so he says, once you concentrate to coronate him, to give him the kingdom above and below in the four directions of the world, you don't need more than that, right? Don't exaggerate. Don't now start making it into some kind of a, choo-choo train, going too long a little bit. Have to also be within reason. So Pirush Rashi explains the Daled, velo behet, but don't prolong. It says the Rashi, don't prolong the het. The chol kama de amar. Below Daled, if you say like that, lo mishtama midi, doesn't really imply anything. Umay betza be'arachato. So then why would you want to elongate that? Aval be'Daled, but when it comes to Daled though, yarich ad keshiur. You have to elongate it until the proper time. Until you think that thought, right? That concentration, above and below, and the four directions of the world. He's the king, above and below, four directions of the world. Until that point, and then but you shouldn't make the het right too short either. Don't swallow it. In order to elongate the dalet. You shouldn't go too fast with the het. So what does that mean? Don't read it with a chataf. So you know what it means, chataf? It means that you're reading it like very short, like a short ah. Not too short. Right? Below patach, without a patach, which is the vowel, which is like a minus sign, That's called patach. The end klum. So he says that wouldn't be good, right? That's nothing. Okay. So then he goes on to explain once you gave God the kingdom above and below in the four corners of the directions of the world, so says the Talmidim Rabbi Yonah, Omrim Rabbanit Tzarfat, that the rabbis of France say, from here it seems that you have to also prolong a little bit with the het as well, since you shouldn't make it too short. Like the same, as the time that it takes to give him the kingdom above and below. But with Dalet, even a little bit longer, four directions of the world as well. That's the way it implies in Menachot, he says. The Amar Hatam, that he says over there, Hitriach legage, Chatre legage dechet, Klomar, Chayhu berumo shel olam, Klomar, Osim kemo tag lemala, באמצע הגג, ליודיע שהוא חי ושהוא ברומו של עולם. So it says over there, right, that the letter het gets a special crown on top of it, the Sefer Torah, in order to notify you that he lives, and he's in the upper worlds. He's in the uppermost part of the world. Moshe Alakol, he rules over everything. So it seems like you have to give him the kingdom. Right, when you read Bechet with the het, B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz, in the upper world and lower world, to notify that he's living in the uppermost world part of the world. With Dalet, and with the Dalet, also the four directions of the world as well. Can I get Dalet corresponding to the Dalet? Some say at the time that he elongates that, Oto, with his thought, B'dayo. Again, right? One more time. Some say the time that he elongates that, he should give him the kingdom in his thoughts, v'dayon is it's enough. And some say he should allude with his eyes, the time that he gives him the kingdom above and below, and the four directions of the world. So he said, that's the way my rabbi prefers. Like we say in the Gemara, Shem over there, and you give him a bet, brachot. The Rabbi Kishaya melamed the Talmidav. That Rabbi, when he used to teach his students, lo ya rotzer le'afsik. He didn't want to stop, teaching. So what he would do is, when the time of Shema would come, he would just pass over his hand, over his eyes, and say the first verse, and then continue teaching. We read the Shema Yisrael. And then he would continue learning, teaching. So the fact that he was passing over his hands, over his face, what's the reason why? That they shouldn't see his illusions that he's doing with his eyes, to every direction. Because that's the way it says in the Gemara. Amar le Rav le Rabbi Chia. The Rab told Rabbi Chia, Lo chazina le Rabbi de mekabel ale or malchut shemaim. So he says, you know what? I don't see Rabbi Udanasi that he does Shema with the first verse, whatever. Amar le tells him, Bar patche pachte b'shashem ma'avid yadav gabav agab einav makabel alav or malchut shemaim. So he says, you're missing it. Told him when he passes over the hands on his eyes, that's when he says the Shema. Looks like you're not following it, right? You're missing it there. That's the end of it. So the Rosh says that's not really a source, a proper source for this. Because since he was sitting right amongst the community when he was teaching, so that's why he would pass over his hand over his face, his eyes, in order that he should be able to concentrate. And even though the Rosh wrote, Ken Katab Rabbeinu, the Rabbeinu also wrote like this. The Mikom Hakom says, nevertheless, Haya Omer, Shen Bezem Mishum Lo Yikrotz Velo Yirmoz. So he says there's no, this is not really called the person who's alluding with his eyes, whatever. Katub besamak. It says in the samak. Tzarich lechaben ba'alef. Also, you have to concentrate, it says, on the aleph of the, right, when you say echad, shehu echad, that is one, ubechet, shehu yachid, and with the chet that is single, the shiva reki'im, in the seven heavens. Wow. Uba'aretz, and in the earth, hare chet, that's your dalet. V'adalet, and what about the dalet? Rama remez le'arba ruchot, the four directions of the world, u'latid, and also the future. Yomru kol ha'olam, in the future the whole world will say, shehu echad. Right? Even the idolaters, will have to admit in the future, right, that he's only one, right? Not like their foolish ideas that they have today, right? Trinity, this, all kinds of nonsense, right? God forbid. Okay. Good. So, yeah, we have another part of Vav here, a little bit piece here. This piece. So, they say, Yesh mefarshim de kamar bilvad shelo yachtov bechet. Some explain, right, that when it says that you shouldn't do the chet too short, swallow it, that means you have to elongate a little bit this thing. So it says, I already wrote about this close by. B'shem Rabbeinu Yonah, name Rabbeinu. Okay, very good. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch here above. We'll see what he says there. So it says the Shulchan Aruch, צריך להאריך בחטא של אחד. You have to elongate the chet of the אחד, כדי שימליך הקדוש ברוך הוא בשמיים ובארץ. In order to give the kingdom to Hashem, the heavens and the earth, שלזה רומז החטוטורות שבאמצע הגג חטא. This is the allusion to the crown which is on top of the chet, on the roof. ויאריך בדלת, also you have to elongate the דלת של אחד, שיעור שיחשוב שהקדוש ברוך הוא יחיד בעולמו. Enough time to think that Hashem is one in his world, מושל בדלת רוחות, and he rules over the four corners of the world, the four directions of the world, העולם, of the world. Yeah. ולא יאריך יותר מכשיעור זה, but he says don't do too much, right? Not more than that. As we already saw in the Gemara that's brought down in the Beit Yosef, ויש נוהגים להטות הראש כפי המחשבה. There's also another custom, right? Some people have, that they tilt the head, right, according to the concentration. So when you're concentrating up, you tilt your head up. You know, when you're concentrating down, you'll tilt your head down, like this, right? Sides, four directions, whatever. Not everybody does this, you know, but whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so good. Just don't get dizzy if you do that.
Actually, Japanese do that a lot, where they move side to side or front to back for concentration purposes. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Right. But this is not really for concentration. This is more like illusion. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, I see what you mean. But in other words, he's trying to he's showing you what he's concentrating. Yeah, but it's true. You're right, though. You're right. You're right what you're saying. Well, what's the reason why they do it? What's the point of that?
Is to keep all the information that they're learning and not to forget. And like you said, to keep concentration.
I see. Right. But here, it's like they're actually alluding to what they're thinking. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing, right? When they're saying up, they're pointing up. When they're saying down, when they're thinking down, they're thinking down, pointing their head down. You know what I mean? A little bit different. Okay, whatever. Anyway, right? That's the idea.
Now we know why Japanese cars are so perfect. A lot of concentration, I guess.
Okay. Well, when are you gonna do put your mouth where your money is, as they say?
Yeah.
You know what they say, right? Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. Okay.
When they make an AMG version of a Lexus,
I got you. Okay.
then I'll consider it.
I got it. Okay, very good. So that's the idea, right? So good. Let's go to Zain. Paired bed, right? Okay, there's also two here a little bit. Let's see the two. So this is what the Torah says about this, by the way, what we just read in the Shulchan Aruch. It says, "Ve'esh nohagim la'tot harosh." Some have this custom, right, to tilt the head, kefi machshava, according to what you're thinking, right? Ma'ala, mata, above and below, Dal Ruchot, 4 directions of the world. So some don't like this, he says. Why? Mishum Hadatanya, because it says in the Braita, Hakoret Shema, Veloy Krotz Be'ena, Veloy Irmoz Besfatat. You shouldn't do allusions when you're reading the Shema. So that some of them don't like this. Okay, whatever. Right? So some people do it, some people don't like it. So it says, my father Rosh, היה אומר שאין לחוש תהתם הקריצה והרמיזה לצורך דלת אמות ומבטלין הכוונה, אבל האחה הרמיזה היא צורך הכוונה וגורמת אותה right. So the Rosh seems to say that you should do it. There's no problem with that. In other words, it's not gonna, even though it's not really an obligation, but it's not going to bother your concentration, he says. So you can't bring that Gemara as a source against this. Why? Because he says the Gemara is talking about something else there. Okay, good. So then it says in Tur, Yerushalmi, Amar Rav Nachman, right? It says in Yerushalmi, Rabbi Yitzchak says this rabbi, Uvivat she'adgish bedalet. Oh, right? So this is what I want to tell you guys, right? As I told you, there was something I wanted to point out. So over here, you know what he's trying to say here? That in the Hebrew language, right, there are certain letters that have a dagesh or no dagesh, and that changes the way the letter sounds. So what is the dagesh? The dagesh is the dot, right? That little dot inside. So that little dot can change the way it sounds. So I already told you guys, right? We talked about this before, about that one has to pronounce the Hebrew properly. That means that every letter has a unique sound, so make sure you get that right sound. If you want to know, right? And as a general rule, how do you read properly? Don't do like the Ashkenazim, right? That's otherwise you get a problem. I'm joking, but there's actually a little bit serious there, if you know what I mean. Okay, but don't read like them, because a lot of the things they don't read properly. So what do you call it? So then, what's the story over here? Now, by the way, it ties into what we're saying here. So the letter Daled, there's 2 ways to read it according to if it has a dagesh or not. So as I said, right, the dagesh is that dot. So what's the difference with the dot? Right, it's like the dalet is like a D sound, like a soft D. Right, a soft D. Without the dagesh, it's like a TH sound, It's really soft. So comes and tells you, right, this Gemara in Yerushalmi, that when we read the word Echad in Shema, that is with a dagesh, with a dot. So therefore, listen to me carefully though, right? The proper the way to read this word is like this. Echad. It's a soft dalet. It's a soft D sound. Echad. Like that. Right? As opposed to the way some people do it, right? I hate to say it, but it's Ashkenazim, they're the ones who make this mistake usually. The way they read it is like this. Sometimes you go into an Ashkenazi shul, and they're saying Shema, and they're saying like this. Echad. Wow, they almost knock you off your chair, They say it so hard, the Daled. It's like you can't even sit on your chair properly, too much, that's too hard. The Daled is not meant to be that hard. So you shouldn't say it so hard like that. That's not the proper way to say Daled. And by the way, how do we know that our custom is correct? We know that because we have a tradition. They don't have a tradition so much, but also from this Gemara, you can see. Why is that? Because we just said, right, that a person who reads Echad, he has to prolong the Dalet. right? How can you prolong the dalet if you say like this? Duh. You can't prolong that. It's like a one shot, it's like a bullet, like somebody shoots a bullet. Duh. That's it, right? So you can't prolong that. There's no way to prolong such a hard sound like that. So therefore you see, right, that the way they say it is wrong. It's not a proper thing to do. So the proper way to say is echad, and then you can prolong because the soft, the D, it's soft, so you can prolong it. Got it? Okay, right. So that's the most important thing. But they're also warning you the other way, right? In other words, this is the Ashkenazi problem. But there was also a problem that they had in those times, which was that some of them read the Dalid like a resh, it's too soft, like a sound, So it's too soft. You can't read like that. You're already distorting the letter. It's like without a dagesh, without a dot. So therefore, right, the proper thing to do is to read it like a soft D, not too hard and not too soft either. Got to get that right balance. God bless. If you can do that, you're pretty cool. You're on the ball. You can read it like that with a soft D sound, and also to have that concentration above, below, 4 directions of the world. Right? You got all that, and that your soft D. Oh, there you go. You're all right. That's perfection. Okay. Oh, so he says, look what he says, unbelievable, right? That if you read it too soft, so what's the problem here? You know what the problem is? Mecharef. You know what mecharef means? That means like you're disgracing God. How is that? How am I disgracing God by saying it too soft? Anybody know what that means? You know why? Because as we just said, right, if you say it too soft, it comes out to be like a resh. So what are you saying? Acher, right? There's another God, Acher. Achar. Achad. Achar. So it's like you're totally distorting the word into something else. So therefore, right, you got to be careful on both sides if you want to do it the right way, right? So what's the proper thing to do again, right? Echad, like this. Nice soft D. Not too hard. This way you can prolong it. Most people don't do it that way, let's face it, right? It's not easy, It's not easy to be a Jew. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? That's the whole thing. Okay. So, yeah. So then he goes on, also, as we said, right? Don't read the chet too fast. Don't go too fast with that. Make sure you say echad, right? Not had, you don't pronounce it. She'en perush mashmauta bechataf shum davar, because if you read it without the echad, it's like there's no meaning of that word. It doesn't mean nothing. Below yarich the aleph also it says, but don't also make the aleph too long, right? What does that mean? Don't say echad too long, right? You should say echad. The aleph should be quite short, not too long. Don't say echad like this, that's too much. שלא נראה כחד, כאחד, right? Oh my God, right? If you say it like that, it comes out to be, he's not one, right? That's according to echad, right? So that's no good. So you see, right, that what happens is that when you pronounce it the wrong way, also the meaning can also change as well, and it becomes like a a very derogatory kind of language there towards God. Good. Okay. יש מפרשים מדקאמר בלבד שלא יחטוף בחטא. Some explain, it says, since it says that you shouldn't make the chet too long, שלא יחטוף בחטא, alma, they shouldn't do the chet too short. alma שצריך להאריך בה כשיעור שיחשוב בליבו. So you see from there, it has to be at least that long, the chet, a time that you should think about it in his heart, שהוא יחיד בשמיים ובארץ, that he's one above and below. And also with the Dalet, you should think that he's the one in the four directions of the world. Okay, so there you go, right? This is the tour. Pretty heavy duty stuff there. Okay, so let's see the Bet Yosef. Very precise.
I do have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned something at the beginning saying about something above and below in the four.
Right, so he's one above and below in the four directions of the world.
And
West,
then you were going to say
north.
something about it.
I'm sorry?
I think you were going to say something. You were going to talk something about that. Was it the?
That's what I was going to tell you about. That's what I told you about the Dalet just now.
Okay.
All right, so don't say that Dalet too hard. Echad, too hard. Oh my God. You're making an earthquake like that. Be careful. Okay. All right, so let's see Bet Yosef. So it says, so it says Bet Yosef, it seems like according to this Yushalmi, that which mentioned the Gemara, Nohagim Haolam. That's why the people, right, have a custom. They have Gisha Dalet, Yoter Midai. Oh, so that's exactly what he says, right? Some people do it too much, make it too hard, right? That's not good. Then Sorach, he says you don't need that. Ela kol shemadgish b'ktzat, just do a little bit. Sagi, that's enough. The two lo damia l'resh, because then it doesn't resemble a resh anymore, right? So that's the trick, right? To get that perfect balance. Not too strong, not too weak, right? That nice balance there. Very good. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. So it says Shulchan Aruch, Yadgish b'dalet shelo teheh kiresh. Right, make the Dalet a little bit stronger, so it shouldn't sound like a resh, right? Okay, good. So now we're going to do Bet Yosef Chet. It says over there, V'lo yachtof bechet. Also, as we said in the tour, right? Don't do the chet too short. Kvar nidber b'samuch. You already explained this, he says. V'lo yarich be'alef. And also, don't elongate the aleph too much. Ken katav harosh. That's what it says in the Rosh. V'resh perek haya koreh over there. V'hu b'Yerushalmi. It's in Yerushalmi, it says. Okay, that's chet. So let's do the Shulchan Aruch on chet. So says Shulchan Aruch, lo yachtov bechet. What does that mean? Don't make the chet too short. Make sure you get that echad, right? Not echad, right? Too short. But lo yarich b'alef, and also don't make the aleph too long, right? So don't do echad too much, and that's not good. Okay, so. Also, I wanted to point out another thing, right, regarding this, that since we're talking about the word echad, right, What is the proper way to pronounce the het? What I'm asking you basically is, right, what's the difference between the het and the kaf? The chaf and het. What's the difference? There is a difference, right? Otherwise, it would be the same letter.
Chaf, it comes from the throat, no?
So
Chaf.
the chaf is really more in the mouth, and the het is in the throat, right? That's the idea.
You said kaf or chaf?
Chaf, right? Of course, kaf is like a Q sound. That's something else,
Yes, just want to make sure.
right? Chaf and het. So chaf is like our ch sound like that we do, ch. Chaf, but that's not the proper way. It's more in the throat, right? Haf. It's in the throat, so it's got to be a little bit deeper, So it's not echad, it's ehad, right? More in the throat. The het. By the way, the Sfaradim are very medactic. They're very precise about this, especially when you go to Israel, right? If you don't say it like that, they're going to tell you, "Hey, buddy, where'd you come from?" Like you don't know how to read. What happened to you? You didn't go to grade school? You don't know how to read. So the Sfaradim are very, 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 very precise about that. The het sound and the haf sound, haf, ehad, right? Not echad. Make sure you got to say that right. Okay, so that's also another important thing, right? Yeah, tell you something, honestly, if you really want to learn Hebrew really good, how to read properly, go to Israel for a while, live there for a while. Because they'll teach you over there, whether you like it or not, they'll straighten you out. Once they start hearing your Ashkenazi, jargon, they're going to tell you, wait, sorry, we're in Israel. This is not Germany. Cut it out. They're going to tell you. So that's the way it is, What can we do? Okay, so yeah. Let's go to Tet. As I told you guys, right, there's a story about this, that there was I'm sure you've heard about the Khatam Sofer, The Khatam Sofer was a big Chacham in Hungary, so he was one of the big Chachamim, the later authorities, Acharonim. So what happened was that his rabbi name was Rab Natan Adler. So this rabbi, Rab Natan Adler, he got some kind of brainstorm in his head all of a sudden, He realized, that the way the Ashkenazi pronounced the Hebrew was wrong. So therefore, what he did was he brought some Sephardi rabbi from Turkey, and he brought him to Hungary that they should learn from him how to pronounce the Hebrew properly. This rabbi, his name was Rabbi Chaim Modai. He was from Turkey, and they kept him there in Hungary for 3 years. Can you imagine? 3 years they kept him there just to learn from him how to read Hebrew. So what happened was that Rav Natan Adler, once he learned how to read Hebrew, the Sephardi way, he became like the Chazan in the shul, and he wouldn't let anybody else pray besides him to be the Chazan, because he was the only one who had to read properly. So everybody else had to be like, no, not you, sir. I'm praying. I'll be the Chazan. That's the way it was, So you see, that's exactly what you get in Israel. When you go to Israel, they're going to tell you, no, no, sir. We're in Israel. That's it, right? Forget about that. That was in the Galut. That was in the exile. Okay, that's the way it is. So, Haomer Shema Israel, right? Also, as we write, we have to also we talked about that before. Right? Shema Israel, the Ayin, right? Make sure you say it like an Ayin, not Shema, right? Shema like an Aleph. That's not the proper way to read. Don't say Shema Israel. No, Shema. The Ayin has to be deep. Shema. The word Shema, right? And with the Aleph in Hebrew, that means something else. What does that mean? Shema. with an aleph. It means perhaps, you know. So you're saying maybe Hashem is one, you know, maybe, yeah. What do you mean maybe? That's if you don't say it with the proper way, you're saying maybe Hashem is one.
Can you say it the proper way right now so I can hear it again?
Shema. Right? That's right. Not Shema. That's no good. Well, you know, like an A sound, you know? Shema. No good.
They're putting the accent on the first syllable and not
Also
at the
true,
end.
right? Yeah, the Spanish they know about that, right? The Spanish they know about these things. So, but also you got to pronounce the ayin, you know, Shema, not Shema, right? That's also. So you got to make sure you get that right. Okay, good. So let's go on a little bit. We have another 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, 7 minutes. So it says, right, that we did Chet, am I right? Yes, now we're going to go to Tet. Yeah, Tet is a very interesting one. We talked about this before a little bit. Right, so it says the Torah like this. Haomer, Shema, Shema, right? He says it twice. Right? This is not allowed. To say twice the same word. Shema, Shema. Meshakinato. So what do we do if we hear him saying that like twice? We tell him, shh, be quiet. Don't do that. We shut him up. Why is that? Because it seems like he's playing to two gods, you know, like Shema, Shema. This God and that God, right? What's that? Say one time, not two times. Another thing, by the way, I got to tell you guys, right? Since we're on this topic here, another mistake which is made by, you know, a lot of Ashkenazim is that they say Shema, Shema. This is no good. Why? Because they're not pronouncing the which is under the shin. It should be Shema, right? Not Shema. It's no good. Don't say Shema. Say Shema. All these things, you see, those little details, you got to make sure you get those things right. So here, right, what we're saying is that if he says it twice, this is the problem. Beit Mar Yerushalmi says in Yerushalmi, Dafka betzibur. So that's only, it says in Yerushalmi, that's only if you're in the community. Because people hear you saying it twice, and they think you're referring to two gods. But b'yachid, when it comes to individual, when he prays at home, Shara, it's okay because you know yourself, you're not talking about two gods. It's just that you made a mistake, you know, whatever. But it says in our Talmud, in the Babli, there's no differentiation between community and not community. So is that which we learn in the Braita, Haomer Shema Shema, how does it megune? That says in Gemara that if a person who says Shema twice, it's disgraceful. But it implies that we don't really shut him up, though, even though it's disgraceful to do it like that. And he answers the Gemara, right? One is talking about that he said the whole verse, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, and then he said it again. That we don't shut him up, right? But when it's talking about, he says one word and again, right, reads it again, the same words. So which one is worse, right? When you do the whole verse and repeat it, or when you do each word and repeat it, which is the worst one? So Rashi explains, when he doubles the verse, right, says it twice, Then we tell him, hey, be quiet. What is this? What, you praying to two gods? What is this? Like, what's going on with you? But when he's repeating each word, it's like this: Shema, Shema, Israel, Israel, like this, right? So then, and we don't have to silence him. It's still considered to be disgraceful. Okay, let's see a little bit about Yosef here. So says Bet Yosef, Besov Perek En Lomdim. It's over there. Lamed Gimel Abud Bet, right? Tanan. It says in the Mishnah, Haomer Modim Modim, right? If a person says Modim Modim twice, when is this? When he's answering, right? The Modim for the Amidah, the repetition of the Amidah. He says Modim Modim. Meshatkin, we silence him because it also sounds like he's praying to two gods. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Zera, Kol Omer Shema Shema, Ki Omer Modim Modim. So it says there, if you do Shema Shema, it's like you're doing Modim Modim, right? Same problem. Sounds like you're praying to two gods. Tame. Metive Akore Et Shema V'Kofla, but they brought an objection because it says in the Gemara, a person who reads the Shema and doubles it, how does it megune? Right? It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful, but we don't silence him. Lakashya, so it's not difficult. When it's talking about, he said each word by itself, and then he repeated it. And when it's talking about, he said one verse, the whole verse, and then repeated it again. Rashi explains, Milta v'tanela teva chozer v'shoneh megune have shetuke לא משתתקים עליה, שאין זה דומה לכבד עליו בשתי מלכויות, אלא למתלוצץ. So he says, there we don't sound, Rashi says something interesting, that when he says each word and repeats it, it doesn't really sound like he's doing two gods, more like he's playing around, joshing around. And that's not good, right? So it's disgraceful. Amar pasuk shalem, but if he said the whole verse and then repeated it, v'tanele, then we silence him. The mixer because it sounds like it's two authorities. The Tosfot katvu says Tosfot שבהלכות גדולות, הלכות גדולות, בפירוש רך, and also in the רך, מפרשים איפכה. They explain the opposite of Rashi. Psuka, when you say verse by verse, we don't silence him. Miu megune, but it's disgraceful. But he says the language of the Talmud doesn't really imply like their explanation, more like Rashi, right? That's what he's trying to say. Okay, good. So then he says Ve'arif. So he says, what about the Rif? What does he hold? Katab beperush halachot galot. He wrote like the halachot galot, berach and arach, v'chen katab Rambam. So all these Rishonim seem to argue with Rashi. They say just the opposite. So therefore, right, says Bet Yosef, the proper thing to do is to refrain from both, right? Don't do two verses and don't do word by word also, right? Doubling them like that. Both of them are problematic. Some say this is worse, some say this is worse. They're all bad, in other words, right? Let's put it this way. Okay, good. Pasaka kolbo. So it says in kolbo, v'davka bepasuk rishon. That's only in the first verse. We have this problem. But one after that, there's no concern. It says. Also it says in Smak, besov kuf daled. In the end of kuf daled. Okay. Good. Let's do a Shulchan Aruch and we'll finish with that. Yeah, we're almost done. So says Shulchan Aruch, Asur lomar Shema pa'amim bet pa'amim, right? Don't say Shema twice. Ben shekofer atevot whether he's doubling the words, each word, Shomer Shema Shema, Ben Kofel Pasuk Rishon, or he's doubling the first verse, says it twice. Don't do that, right? As we said, it sounds like either you're accepting two gods or you're just like joshing around, which is really bad. So either way, it's very bad. Okay, very good. So we'll stop there, Bezrat Hashem. Very nice. Thanks for having you tonight. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. Be holy and get ready for Shavuot. We're almost there, Bezrat Hashem. Only less than 2 weeks away.
Yes.
So we have to get ready to accept the Torah, right? Next to Har Sinai. And make sure you get your dairy recipes ready. You have to make some dairy foods. Okay, Bezrat Hashem. Chazak Baruch. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.
8:45, Bezrat Hashem.
Thank you.
God bless.